Good morning, everybody. If you can take your seats, we'll go ahead and get started. Hope your travels down here were fantastic. I'm Dr. Allison Kurt. I serve as your section president, and what an awesome facility to be spending our day at today. So thanks so much for trying to be a better coach, trying to open up your mind, have a growth mindset, and learn from some of the best in the industry so that you can bring it back to your students and help them play their best golf. We've seen several iterations of this spring format, from youth player development to player development summit, and I'm actually grateful that it's back to the spring teaching summit. I think it gets back to our roots, and we get to share a lot of wonderful information that applies to all of the populations that we work with. So really excited to see the amazing presenters that we have lined up for you today, and excited for what's to come. So I'm going to introduce the co-chairs of our Spring Teaching and Coaching Summit, who will lead us through the schedule for today. We have Raina Kearns and Jordan King Thomas. Please join me.
That's awesome. All right. Hello. Like she said, I'm Jordan King Thomas. This is Raina Kearns. I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy week to come down here to share in our Spring Teaching and Coaching Summit here at the beautiful TPI Institute. It doesn't get much better than this, and I don't think they even charged us for the good weather. I think that just came for free, so that's nice. We've got a great lineup today. Really want to send a shout out and a thanks to Steve Wilson, the director of golf here. And like Allison mentioned, just a world-class lineup of education today. And on that, I'm going to turn it over to Raina.
Thanks, Jordan, and good morning, everyone. We all should have name badges, so if you just take a peek on the back is the schedule. Underneath your name, it should say the station that you're going to start at. We will be spending right about an hour at each station, so please make sure that you find your group, your station, and you stay with that so we can follow the rotation schedule. We will have 2 rotations prior to lunch and then 2 more following. And then after lunch and our presentations are done, we do invite you to stick around. We will have a putting contest and a happy hour sponsored by Dogleg and White Claw. So before we kick off, we are going to do a little welcome with Dr. Greg Rose and Dave Phillips of the TPI. Greg is a doctor of chiropractics and holds an engineering degree from the University of Maryland. He specializes in assessing and treating athletes, sports biomechanics, strength and conditioning, manual therapy, rehabilitation, and therapeutic exercises. Greg, along with Dave, co-founded the TPI. Dave Phillips, the Eddie Marin's Teacher and Coach of the Year, is a 32-year PGA member, ranked as one of the top 100 in the country by Golf Magazine and top 50 by Golf Digest. When he and Dr. Rose created the TPI, their goal was to create the world's first true golf performance facility and look at every aspect of a player's game, from equipment fitting to biomechanics and how that interacts with the human body. We are thrilled to welcome Greg and Dave to the summit, so please help me welcome them. And gentlemen, the floor is yours.
We got mics on.
Thank you. I think, yeah, we got.
All right. Welcome, everybody. How you doing? Come on. You got to be more excited than that. It's a little chilly out here. It's always a pleasure for Greg and I to have you at this facility. It's pretty incredible, isn't it? It's amazing when we first started this journey, kind of what it's become today and how this is growing. So while we've got you with us for a couple hours this morning, I know you've got a lot of different things going on. We're going to take you on a little journey through our world. So basically, we're going to talk to you a little bit about what we kind of founded, the Body Swing Connection, how we work with the body and how it relates. We might get some of you in the front row like comedians up and moving, so be careful. You sit in the front, you could be in trouble. We're going to show you a little bit about kinematics, kinetics, the things that we are hearing most about today. I know you're probably hammered with force and pressure and 3D and what's going on in that world. That is part of our world. So we're going to take you down that journey a little bit this morning for the first hour or so, and then we're going to look at a couple of the big kind of swing characteristics that we see that I think you will deal with every day at your clubs. And we're going to kind of show you some of the physical factors that affect that, maybe some of our favorite drills to attack that, some of the things we've learned over the years of doing this. You have anything to add?
I'm just curious, how many of you guys are TPI certified? It's like to see. Nice. Thanks for coming to the seminars. I know you guys haven't had a tour of the facility yet too, but I think we're going to kind of give you a little virtual tour, and then Steve's going to give you a tour after we're done. So hang with us, and then hopefully this should be fun.
Yeah, so we're going to start that. I'm actually going to show you kind of a few slides. I know the sun's bright. I think you can see that. This was a facility when we first started. We started in 2004. It was kind of back in the day. Greg and I were in Maryland at the time. I was at Caves Valley Golf Club. Greg had built the first kind of performance center in Washington, D.C., and we started working together with athletes and tour players and amateur golfers back then. And we got this opportunity by Wally Uline, the former CEO of Titleist, where I sat down with him and said, hey, we want to do something different. And he kind of listened to our idea. And that was really create the first Olympic-style training center for golf, where we were looking at everything other than just clubs. So obviously we do clubs here, but he gave us kind of the keys to be able to look at everything else. And that's where we went down this track of looking at the human body in depth, developing our curriculum, which is the TPI certified program. And we're pretty excited because that program over the years has grown. We have about 34,000 TPI certified experts in 66 countries now.
Yep.
We educate in 10 different languages, so our online platform is in multiple languages. And when Greg and I go around the world and see what that's done in the different communities and what those people are doing with this information, making it their own, taking it to another level, it's pretty exciting when you kind of walk around Asia and you go to Africa and you go Europe and you go all over and you start to see other people that have taken some of what we developed and made it their own. And that's what we've always hoped to do. So we don't look at it as it's our information. We look at the fact that we're curators of this information. We've been given this incredible opportunity by Titleist to develop something that most of us would only dream of doing. And it's exposed us to the best players in the world and the best technology in the world. It's allowed us that ability to look at things that others not necessarily look at. So whether it's on the neuroscience front, whether it's looking at blood work, whether it's looking at the foot, the shoe, the ankle, whatever it is, we're able to dive a little bit deeper than most. And it's up to us then to produce the education to pass on to you guys and everybody else out there. And that's kind of always been our goal. So to show you what's kind of happening here, as I said, you're going to get a tour of this facility. The outside has changed. We're about a year and a half into a 3-year project right now. So some of these buildings are about to get changed. This one behind you is about to get changed. As you can see over here, there's some construction going on. We've built a new lab. So this is the facility as it is right now. There's actually 9 holes out here. We can actually shut it down and we have holes that you can actually play. This is called the ARC. That's the Advanced Research Center. That's the building that you might have passed through over there. That houses one of our labs. It also houses ball testing and club testing. So the robots are over there. And this is one of our 3D labs that we have over there. We've got multiple of these labs now where we've got advanced biomechanics, force and pressure, high speed, everything. We also have something called the BARC, the Baseball Advanced Research Center. It sits behind this building. And the reason we went into other sports is, again, we're always looking for what other things can we learn to bring back to golf. So when you look at other sports that are rotary sports, where you're producing speed and power by pushing against the ground, and it's a rotary sport, baseball matches that extremely well. Greg started looking at baseball mechanics on rotary athletes. We also noticed that every time we brought a baseball player in here, they had tremendous speed. Not only that, we look at things like hockey players, their ground force and the way they're using the ground. So we've started to look at every athlete. We even have NFL quarterbacks coming in here now where we're looking at their throwing motions and how they develop velocity. So again, it's all looking at stepping outside of your box, looking into some other sports to try and figure out, is there something we can learn that we can bring back into golf? So that's the BARC, the Baseball Advanced Research Center. You'll get a look at that. We also have the studio, which is a building in the back where some of you parked. That's where we'll have our video labs. We'll also have podcasting studios. We have full production studios back there where we can film and develop content, which is kind of cool in this content world we live in today. The lab is not been built yet. That's over this side. There's a small building that you'll see over there that is going to get blown up. We're going to build another biomechanics lab, a Scotty Cameron putting studio here as well. The pyramid, that's our pyramid of influence. When you go by the main gate, we have this building that is dedicated for developmental players, PGA Tour, LPGA, any kind of professional player. And that's kind of their hang for the day. That also has a full club building studio in it, as well as a place for them to sit and relax and catch up on whatever they need to. And that area over there is kind of dedicated more towards them. And so this is kind of the new TPI. We opened in 2004. It's 20 years since we started this. So we had a 20-year rebuild starting last year. And we've got the Advanced Research Center, the Baseball Advanced Research, the Titleist Learning Center, which is this building that you can see under construction. That'll be a 250-seat classroom, theater-style classroom for us to do more education, broadcast studios, and so on. And then, obviously, you've got the Learning Center, the clubhouse, which is this that you see behind you, which will get refaced and rebuilt. So it's pretty cool. We'll also have a Vokey studio down the back. Did I miss any?
Other than that, nothing's going on.
Nothing going on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're about a year and a half in. We hope we can get it done in another year. Right? We're going to get it done in another year, you think? Okay. So that's kind of this world we live in. And you guys will get a tour of the entire property, the facility. You'll see some of the things we're working on. So we're excited to have you here. Love to get your feedback. If you see anything that you think we should be looking at a little bit differently, please, by all means, let us know. So I'm going to turn it over to Greg for a minute. We're going to kind of tag team this, although it says me first and you second. Or...
Doesn't matter. Oh, you see that. Okay. All right, guys. So what we thought would be kind of cool is to kind of show you our world when players come in, like how we attack the players. Obviously, Dave said, we've got all this technology, but how you use the technology, I think is important. I think there's a lot of technology out there now that is getting misused, that people don't even know what it's for or how to read it. And I thought maybe we could spend the first hour navigating some of these cool tools out there and kind of show you how you can use this stuff. We always say that there's one thing that all players hate more than anything, and I hope you would agree, and that's searching. Most of the players that come here are searching for something. They've got a team around them, but they're like, I don't know what's going on, my shoulder hurts, or I don't know, my driver, I just can't keep it in play, or I just can't get those extra 20 yards that everybody else is having, but they're all searching for something. And as you know, if you're a player, there's nothing worse than sitting on the tee box and you've got this mist going on and you have no idea what's going on, right? So the good news here is, like I said, is we don't use opinions, we use data. I'd say we use instinct, but it's all driven by data or backed up by data. So I always say, if we're going to try and solve this, I want to kind of walk you through our procedure of how we do this here at TPI. So the first thing we do with all players, and I always say, don't ever assume, is we do an interview. Now, our interview, we do the basics, right? So we'll say, all right, how old are you? How much you weigh? We'll collect basic biometric data on them. And then we'll say, okay, any injuries you've had that have cost you more than a week of play in your career, even if you don't think it matters, we go back from the day you were born to now. I want to know anything that's come up. We'll ask them, who's your team? Who's your coach, trainer, medical, sports psychology? We'll go through all the basics. We'll ask them what their superpower is. We always ask every player, why are you on tour? Everybody's got a superpower. Like to know what that is. And then we ask what we call the genie in the bottle question, which is basically, we say to all of our players, imagine you're walking down the beach, you find a bottle, you rub on the bottle, and a genie pops out. I'm like, let's say that's Dave and I, and we're your genie for the day. I'm going to give you 3 wishes. How can I help? Right? That's how every one of our interviews starts. And you'd be surprised. Like, I think a lot of times when a student comes in, you think they're there because they want to hit the ball better. A lot of times that's not why they're here. Like I said, they might be here because they want to feel better after they play golf. Or maybe they're here for putting. They weren't here for full swing. But just make sure you ask the simple questions versus how you can help, right? Once we get the genie in the bottle question, I can tell you from 21 years of experience here, it doesn't change what we're about to do. We still collect the same amount of information. I feel like if you collect the right information, you should be able to answer any question that they ask the genie, right? How many Simon Sinek fans do we have here? Anybody seen any of his stuff? He's a great presenter out there, but if you ever see his TED Talks, it's really good. But he talks about people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I kind of 100% all in on this, totally agree with this. If I convert that to our world, we say you can show people what they do and how they do it, but they need to know why. I feel like it's really, really important. They don't need to understand how to read 3D graphs or how to do force weights, but they do need to know why this is happening so that you stop the search. That's always our purpose, is stop the search so they have confidence when they're out there. Because you can't go and play with them and tell them what to do. They've got to be able to make changes on the fly when they're playing, right? So I think it's really important to know, though, if you look at the technologies that we have in this building, you're going to see some really, really cool stuff as you go around. Each technology is trying to answer a different question. In other words, we have technology that answers the question of what the player's doing. We have technology that answers the question of how they're doing it. And we have technology that answers the question of why they're doing it. I always say I never want to try and answer the question that the player has without knowing what they're doing, how they're doing it, and why they're doing it. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to walk you through our technology in this format. In other words, I'm going to show you technology that's based on measuring what a player does, technology on measuring how a player does it, and then the whys. And then we'll talk about putting it all together, if that makes sense. So let's start with, I think, the thing that's the most common that you'll see in most facilities, and that is what a player does, right? So I always say, if you want to know what a player's doing in their swing, what's the easiest technology to use for that? Yeah, video, right? What are some other things you can use besides video? 3D. If you want to if there's a million types of 3D out there, starting from the basics, like some of the sports box markerless, to the inertial sensors like K-Vest or 4D, or you can go start getting crazy into like Gears or Qualisys, some of the ones over there. These are all forms of 3D motion capture. All they do is quantify video. They give you a degree, right, or an angle or a speed, right? But that's still what. What else is in the what category? Launch monitor tells you what the ball's doing, right? I'm gonna pass this to Dave, and we'll talk a little bit more about the video camera here in a second. But I want you to know, if you sent us a video of a player, or if you sent us a 3D of a player, and we'll talk about these, if you sent us launch data of a player and you said, hey guys, here's a video, and people send us this all the time, here's my player, what should I do? Our answer is always the same. What do you think our response is? I can see what they're doing, but I have no idea why or how they're doing it, right? I can guess if you want, but it's a complete guess. I just want you to understand, there's no terminal diagnosis in what. It just tells me what, but I don't know why and I don't know how, right? So let's talk a little bit about video first.
Yeah, so I think we've all been down this track where somebody sends you a video of their golf swing and, they've asked you for your opinion. As Greg says, that's what's going on. We don't know how or why. We, in the world of TPI, we have 15 swing characteristics that we look at. We call it the Big 15. These are swing characteristics. There are a lot of great players that have these, and it doesn't affect their ability to perform. We only call them swing faults if it affects your ability to perform. If it doesn't, then we kind of dig a little bit deeper, and that's where the what and the how and the why come together. So these are the 15 that we have. Your postural, are you in S posture? Do you have C posture? Are you rounded? Do you lose your posture, stand up during the swing? Do you have what we call flat shoulder plane, flying elbow, early extension? These should be pretty common to all of you. I think these have been hammered many, many times on the internet and so on and so forth. You've probably heard us talk about these. These are things you're going to deal with pretty much every day when you look at your students. These are kind of what is going on. Greg mentioned it before, launch monitor data. That's another thing that happens at impact. That tells me what is happening at that point of impact. But we don't know why it's happening. You could be over the top, early extend, and it's telling you your path is out to the right and the ball's starting to the right. If somebody just gave you launch monitor data, but you didn't know the fact that they were over the top when they early extended to save it, and now their path is going out this way. So those are what's. You got to dig deeper, and that's where we use some of the other technology we have, and especially the physical. We're all about movement. That's how we based and built TPI. And it's amazing to me today that we still don't look at this enough. You still assume, and people assume that they can do what you're asking them to do. It is shocking. And you're going to see in a little bit when we test some of you, how many things that you have in your golf swing and habits that you have that you can't break because you're not addressing the why. Right?
Yeah, so I want to say something real quick about the swing characteristics. We get asked questions about this all the time. Like, how many of you guys have seen our list before on all these, right? Imagine if I did this. Imagine if I took, let's say Dave mentioned our BARC, the baseball percentage. Imagine if I took 15 MLB pitching coaches, and by the way, I've done this, put them around a table, and I say, all right, guys, let's all agree what's the best way to pitch. How's that going to go? That'd be like with you guys talking about what's the best way to swing. Put 15 of you around, how's that going to go? Let's just say there's some strong opinions out there, right? That might be different. Everybody agree? Right? So I just want to make sure it's really clear. We're not telling you how to swing. What we do here, which I think is our kind of our sweets, our let's say our secret sauce, maybe, is we never take a bunch of pitching coaches, put them around a table and say, hey guys, let's figure out the best way to pitch. Instead, we say, hey, can we all agree on the most common things that we see that you really shouldn't do? That these are the things that tend to create biomechanical efficiencies. Like, would everybody agree that coming over the top's probably not a good idea, right? If everybody agrees, we go, oh, that's probably a characteristic. But if I say, okay, is swaying, should you get your center of mass outside of your center of pressure over here? I think most coaches would say, it's probably a bad thing. If I said, so how do you load in your backswing? Well, now that's all, there's 30 different opinions there, right? So we're never going to tell you how to swing. We're just going to say, these are the things that scientifically have shown to create the most biomechanical inefficiencies. And that's the big 15. Does that make sense? Okay. Again, I still don't know why, like Dave said, this is just kind of the what. And it's the same thing with the launch monitor, right? We kind of know what optimal launch characteristics look like. And we know things like, you probably don't want to have 4,000 spin with your driver, right? So I don't know why you have it, but we probably don't want to have that. Now, we talked a little bit about 3D motion capture, and we'll show you our new 3D labs. Like I said, 3D is a great way to quantify, right, your 2D video, right? Again, it doesn't give you more insight into the whys, it just quantifies the what. Now, with one caveat, it's kind of hard to see with a screen here, but how many of you are familiar with the kinematic sequence, right? So something that was developed a long, long time ago, it was actually developed in baseball, believe it or not. There was a team of people trying to predict who would go from single A to double A to triple A to majors the fastest. And we're trying to look at this for scouting. We're like, is there like some secret sauce that we can figure out which kids are going to go through faster? And I just don't think baseball was ready. It's back in baseball now, but it left baseball, went to golf, and now it's come full circle back to baseball. But it was called the kinematic sequence. And what they found was that, okay, there's Jim Furyk, there's Tiger Woods, there's millions of swings in between. But what we found is that if you get in the Goodyear blimp and you go over the first tee here at, let's say, Torrey Pines, and you're watching Farmers, and basically, I took any of you on the blimp and it was Tiger Woods and Jim Furyk in this pairing, I'm pretty sure you could tell who was who from the Goodyear blimp. Do you guys agree? I mean, their swings are that different, you could probably tell from the Goodyear blimp. If I showed you their kinematic sequence, which is how they create power and how they transfer power, I promise you, because I have both of them, you can't tell the difference, right? Which is pretty cool. In other words, style is so different than actually how they create power and transfer power. What we found was that the best players in the world, they start energy from the ground. Their lower body starts to go first. Energy transfers to the trunk. Trunk goes second. Transfers to the arms. Arms go third. Club goes fourth. And hopefully, when it gets to the club, they're at the ball. Right? It's like the handle of the whip transferring to the tip of the whip. That's the one really cool thing in 3D, besides just quantifying 2D video, is we can see sequencing and timing of how you move your body. Now, there's a little bit of how in there instead of just what, but I think 3D, to me, I think 3D is cool. I prefer 2D video. I think most people, when you coach, they prefer to see their video versus an avatar, but I like looking at sequencing too. So I use 3D for sequencing, and I use video for looking at, the robot The avatar is kind of cool a couple times, but then people are like, let me see my swing again, right? Okay, that's the what's, right? And I think what's the easy one. Now I want to get to, I'd say, probably the most research in the last 5 years. And the thing that I think everybody's talking about now is the how, right? Let's talk a little bit about the how. And I want to preface this by saying this. If you gave me a video and a 3D of a player, like pick a player, let's say you gave me Scotty Scheffler's video and his 3D, and that's all I knew, I'm pretty sure I could mimic, I could get into his position in the back. I've had all the data. I can make sure my shoulders are turned the same, hips are turned, my stance is the same. I could get to the top, but I am confident, like 100% confident, it won't feel the same as it does to Scotty. If you give me the how, if you tell me how he does a backswing, and I have this data, I can feel what it feels like. So I always say, hey, if you haven't seen force plates, which is how we measure how, and you're like, should I really worry about force plates? If you think it's advantageous to step inside your golfer's body and feel what it feels like, then look at force plates. If you don't think it matters, then don't worry about it. That's what they do. I think it's really important, right? Because what I used to think with force plates or I should say before force plates, I used to say, like Dave would say, hey, they're swaying, right? So, hey, they're swaying. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I know what that feels like. Do you guys know what sway feels like? What if I told you there's 400 ways to sway? I actually think there's more, right? In other words, if you get up here and sway, and I have a student of yours sway, I'm pretty sure how they sway is different than how you sway, right? That's what I didn't realize. And once I realized that I could measure how they sway, and then I'd stand up and go, wait, what? David and I are always like, wait, what are they doing? And we sit there and we're looking at it and we're like, oh, you're doing that? We're like, wow, that's weird. It's how you step into the field. Does that make sense? That's the advantage. No matter what anybody tells you, that's the advantage of force plates, if you understand it, okay? So it's all about what's happening under the feet. So let's talk about this real quick. How many of you feel like you're proficient in force plates? Hence why we're having this conversation. Okay, so let's go basics first. Okay, a long time ago, we learned that if you push into the ground, what does the ground do? It pushes back. Who taught us that? Sir Isaac Newton taught us this. This is Newton's third law. If you push down into the ground with 100 pounds, the ground's going to push back with 100 pounds. Now, what direction does it push back? It's an equal and opposite direction. That's the third law. So if you push to the right, the ground reaction force is going to do what? It's going to push to the left, right? I'll tell you, one of my biggest pet peeves is pressure, and we'll get to that in a second because that confuses coaches all the time. But in the most basic sense possible, ground reaction force is when you push into the ground, it's the reaction from the ground that's pushing back into you. Okay, now why does this matter? Okay, why it matters is because those ground reaction forces that push back into you is what allows you to move, right? Does anybody know what Newton's first law is? So I'm the only nerd here. Okay, so Newton's first law is this. It says objects at rest remain at rest unless there's some type of external force. What that means is that you can't move unless some force is applied to you. Right? That's his first law. Pretty simple. Like, you're just going to sit here unless something makes you move, right? So believe it or not, people are like, you don't need your feet. I'm like, actually, unless you're not on the planet Earth, you need your feet, right? Because you need some type of force to make you move. And I want you to understand that forces precede motion. So when you see a player sway, right, there was some force that they applied before that made them sway, right? We can now measure those things. So just always remember when we're looking at ground reaction forces, they happen before the movement. So a lot of times when you're looking at the forces, you're like, hey, look right here, look what they're doing. I'm like, actually, when you're looking at the force, what that's going to cause hasn't happened yet. It's about to happen, though. That's a little confusing a lot of times when you look at force plates, okay? Now, there are three basic forces that you can apply to the ground. You can push straight down, right? I'm going to jump. That's a vertical force. You can just push straight down. Of course, I can push lateral, right? So there's your right to left or lateral force. And of course, I can push heel to toe or toe to heel. I can go front and back. Basically, I always say there's three ways you can go. This way, you can go this way, this way. There's your three axes. And the force plate can measure those. Now, I always say in golf, which one's the most important? Well, before you answer that question, I think it's obvious in some sports. right? Let's look at the sport here first. What ground reaction force is the most important? If you want to beat Usain Bolt. Okay, I see a little heel to toe there too. There's a heel to toe and probably a little vertical. Would you all agree? That would I think that would be Captain Obvious that I need to push this way and not really this way, right? All right, how about this sport? Would heel to toe work here? Any hockey players here? Heel to toe doesn't work really well on ice skates. This is more what? Lateral, right? Pushing lateral. You can see pretty obvious here. Let's get even more. Let's say you're the blocker in volleyball. Again, we can go through most sports, and if I'm the blocker in volleyball, what's the only force that really matters right now? Vertical, right? So then I always like to say, well, okay, how about golf? What do you think? What's that? The answer is yes, all of them? I would agree. There is one that's more important, but golfers use all of them. But we're going to come back to that in a second. To make it even more complicated, right? If you take a force and I push into the ground, and the ground reaction force comes right back to the center of my body, right? What's going to happen is if I push straight down, the ground reaction force is going to come straight back up, and I'm going to go straight up in the air. But I'm not going to twist. If the ground reaction force doesn't go through the center of my body, it misses the center of my body, it will make me twist in some direction. Those are called torques, okay? In the golf swing, you can actually create torques too, right? So if I don't push straight down, if I push more diagonal, well, then the ground reaction force will come back diagonal, it won't go through the center of my body, and it'll make me twist. Now, there are 3 ways to torque or twist, and you'll hear these words, moment, torque, or twist. Those are all the same. I like twist. I think 3rd grade language is better. There's 3 ways to twist, right? The first way is this. You can twist around this axis right here. That's called bend. You can twist this way. I can twist around this axis. I call this rock and roll. Or I can just do this. I call that twist. So you can twist, you can rock, or you can bend. Those are the terms. Please don't use frontal plane torque, horizontal plane torque. It drives me crazy. Don't use nerd language. Just use 3rd grade language, right? Yes, this is frontal plane torque. This is horizontal plane torque. And by the way, different force plates call it different names too, to even make it more confusing, right? Let's just all say, hey, I've seen rock and rollers. Have you seen rock and rollers? I've seen benders, right? And I've seen twisters. Do you agree? So which one's the best? Right, so again, if I go, like, hey, let's look at some sports. What's primary torque here? That's bend, right? That's primary torque there, right? How about here? A little bit of rock, a little bit of twist? How about let's go obvious here? This is a very large human right here. All right, which of those 3 I'd say is most similar to golf? This one? Just curious, what do you think? In golfers, what do they do most? Do they bend? Do they twist? Or do they rock the most? So, I think what's interesting about golf is you realize it's not so easy. Like you look at those other sports and you're like, oh, this is pretty Captain Obvious. Say a sprinter goes this way, a hammer thrower, they twist. You look at golf and you're like, if I look at Scotty Scheffler and I'm like, well, his feet are kind of like, okay, he's going backwards, he's going forward, he's kind of going to the left towards the target, he's kind of moving everywhere, right? There's all kinds of stuff going on, right? Believe it or not, just to answer that question, the highest torque in average on tour is rock and roll, by the way. Do you know that? We'll get to some of those, but that's the highest torque in golf. So I'd say most guys they're more rock and rollers than they are twisters, believe it or not. There's some crazy stuff going on with the feet, and you're looking at the modern player now. We always say we look at the divot patterns on the ground. We look at divot patterns on the ground too, but it's not from the club, it's from their feet on some of our modern players. It's crazy what they do to our turf just from their feet doing motion, right? Now, we used to always talk about this, like this is a great way to create force, and everybody thought we were crazy, and then nothing better ever happened to us since Scotty Scheffler started doing them. We're like, see, number 1 player in the world does this. You can see that, like, literally that's how you create pretty cool power. Now, so what does a force plate do? So I got Justin James there from the World Long Drive on here. We put him on here, and what we do is we measure the 3 forces and the 3 torques, and we look at them. Now, what I like to do is give you a little insight onto what we've learned on these. Remember, all of this is trying to help me understand how they move. Remember, there are forces and torques that bring the club up. There are forces and torques that bring the club behind you. There are forces and torques that bring the club down. There are forces and torques that bring the club in front of you. And it's the synchronization of these forces and torques that make the club move on a plane. So if you want to understand how they move on a plane, understand the forces and torques, right? So I see a lot of people with force plates, pressure plates now, and they're like, hey, what was your vertical? Right? Hey, I heard this is Torres average here. And I hear people, because people, I think human nature is more is better, and I want to see numbers, right? I just want you to know, if you came here with us and we took you into the lab and we looked at your force plate, the last thing we look at is magnitude of how hard you're going. The first thing we look at, just like we learned from the 3D motion capture, is sequence. In other words, imagine if you had a great amount of magnitude, you're pushing really hard, but your forces are out of sequence, you're still going to suck. It doesn't matter, right? So what is the normal sequence we see with these forces and torques? Okay, I'm going to give you the 70-30 rule, right? If I took all of our tour staff, 70% of them do what I'm about to tell you. What that means is I can show you major champions that don't, right? But this is the majority, okay? And we'll talk about the ones that don't. 70% of our players do this. On the force plate, we start taking them to the backswing. They will start first creating lateral force, right? We're going to see lateral force, so we see a weight shift first. I think it's obvious in sports like pitching and hitting where they step. I think a lot of amateurs don't know in golf because we're not stepping that lateral happens first. But just like any rotary sport, we see lateral first. Some of the best players in the world, right? So they go lateral. The next thing we see, and I'll turn this way, is most great players, they go lateral first. Most great players shallow early, and then they can steepen late. They don't steepen early and then try and shallow late. That's what we see with a lot of frustrated players, right? So normally what we see is we see lateral, rock. That's the second thing we see in the sequence. Now they got to get the club in front of them. So now we see twist, and then we see jump, vertical. That's the normal, what we call kinetic sequence. Now, all 6 things happen, 3 torques, 3 forces, but those 4 primarily are usually in sequence. If I was going to add a 5th one, it would be lateral, rock, twist, there's a little bit of bend, and then a jump. But the normal sequence, when you hear people talk about kinetic sequence, that based on, we have more data than anybody in the world, we kind of put this sequence out a couple of years ago, it's lateral, rock, twist, jump. Any questions on that? That kind of makes sense? All right? So there's your normal kinetic sequence. Now, why would there be a major champion that doesn't do this? What would be a good reason to not have this? Yeah, what do you got? Body types? I would say, yes, body types can change what you do. I'm going to say it's probably more of where the club is, right? If you're Matt Kuchar, right, and you're around over here, you know, like very around here, do you think it would be smart to go lateral and rock first? Or do you think you might want to bring the club and twist a little early before you do that? Sometimes you gotta always remember that these ground reaction forces help move the club. So if the club's in like if you take the club up here, it's probably gonna make more sense to rock first. If you take the club over here, it's probably gonna make more sense to twist first. Does that kind of make sense? So take a look at the club. If you don't see the right sequence, make sure that you're not telling them to do a sequence that would make no sense from that club position. Okay? I think that's important. So the first thing is sequence. The second thing we look at, still not looking at magnitude, is timing of your forces, right? So I always like to say, like, what if your sequence is perfect, but you did it in the backswing and our best players do it in the downswing? That would suck, right? When you do it matters. Now, I kind of already talked about this. When do the forces happen? Forces precede motion. They happen before they move. So what we have learned is this, is that you need time from when you create your ground reaction forces for the forces to make their way all the way to the club. Does that make sense? Right? So if you're trying to, like, I don't know if you guys were like me, but when Tiger Woods came out, I think we were all going, man, look at impact. Like, he's firm planted. There's this big post, right? Remember all this over here? How's Scotty's firm plant at impact? He's not even on the ground. But let's say if I'm believing this, right, I'm thinking I'm going to try and create most of my force right here. Guys, it takes time for the forces to get to the club. If you're thinking that, you're not using the ground for your club, you're just using your hands, right? The thing that we've noticed is with the best players in the world, and it's almost universal, is professionals are so much earlier than amateurs. Amateurs are always late with ground reaction forces, right? So what's the normal timing? Let's look at one of the best swings in the world. Just kidding. I want you to. Oh, you know what? I probably can't. Can you control the video there?
I think so.
Can you take like just when the little center pressure dot first starts to move, but I haven't moved yet. Right there. Stop it there. Okay. Everybody see the center pressure? See how it moved left? This, by the way, my pet peeve is people look at center pressure and they go, oh, look, Greg went left, and then he's going to go right, and then he goes left again. That is not what that says. Did I move left? What's that saying right there? It's saying I'm pushing on my left. So I'm starting to push on my left. Why am I starting to push on my left? Because I'm about to go right. Does that make sense? Forces precede motion. Everybody understand that? Like you'll start seeing the forces happen before I start to move. That's very, very important. The center of pressure on a pressure plate, if you guys use pressure, it's not weight shift. It's where you're pushing. It's usually the opposite. Like if the dot goes left, you're probably going right. People screw this up all the time, right? So what is the timing of these forces? I think the moral of the story is this. Two things I'm going to show you. Horizontal, I keep trying to use a laser. It doesn't work on this. Horizontal happens on most of our players. That's the first ground reaction. Usually happens before the top of the backswing. So most players, their maximum lateral pressure happens before the club even changes direction. Very early. The last ground reaction force, which is usually vertical, usually occurs before the lead arm gets below parallel. Usually the shaft is vertical and the lead arm is parallel. If your arm's down here and your ground reaction forces are happening, there's not enough time. You're hitting it with your upper body. Okay? Earlier is better, right? That's, I look at this and I'm like, okay, shaft's vertical, but the arm's a little, that's like, man, that's almost a little late for me. You're going to see amateurs that their last ground reaction force is at impact. I mean, it's unbelievable how late they are. And they want to know why they can't hit it as far as, some of our players. I'm like, well, you're just using half your body. Yeah.
Can you show us a quick example of what was too early?
Great question. So, question is,
Greg, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Question is, so you said amateurs are too late. Can you be too early? Right? What do you think? I got Justin James, last time he was here. I swear he had just started the change direction when his last ground reaction force happened. I don't know if you can go too early. I mean, it was like if we get in the lab, come grab me in the lab sometime and I'll show you. Literally, his club is, I'm saying this is where it should be. He just changed direction and he was already done. I'm like, I don't even know how you do that. Now, why does that matter? Tell me why earlier matters. How do you hit a ball farther? There's only 3 ways. I'll take all of our research for the last 25 years and make it really simple. There's only 3 ways to hit a ball farther. If you go to physics and you ask a physics professor, what's the formula for power? They're going to say power is force times velocity. So the first 2 ways to hit a ball farther, apply more force. That's number 1. Get bigger, right? That's one way. Second way, move your club faster. Move your arms faster. That's velocity, right? So get faster, get stronger. Those two simple ones. But there's a third way. What's the third way? It's called impulse, and we can actually measure this on a force plate. Impulse is this. It's the amount of time you apply this force and velocity. So the best analogy on this is if I put you on a chair with wheels 1 foot away from a wall, I get behind you, I push you on the wall. Could I kill you? No. Could I hurt you? Maybe a little bit. If I get 30 feet away, and now I've got some time to apply this force and velocity and slam me into the wall, is it going to get a lot worse for you? If I have more time to apply force and velocity, that's called impulse. I can create more speed, right? So just think, if I've got more time to start ramp, I call it ramp time. I just think it adds more speed. Now again, if you're, I think maybe if the energy got to the club too early and you weren't at the ball yet, then it would be a problem. You know what I mean? But Roger, I've never seen it. I've never seen it too early. You know what I mean? Yeah. No. God, I want to throw up when I watch this. Hold on, let's do it again. Oh, sorry. Come on. Play both of them. Oh, come on. Show Justin again. Why is that not going? You see his? And then you see mine? Yeah, it's so late. Can you see that? Let's do it again. And then watch mine. It's like he's right here and the leg throws and I'm like, and then like the ball's gone and I start to push. I want to throw up when I watch that video. I did it on purpose just for you guys. Okay. All right. So in general, force and torques are too late on amateurs. Then the last thing we look at on force plates is what everybody talks about, and that's magnitude, right? So now we look at how hard you push, right? Now I kind of asked what's the most important over here. You can see some of this if you want. You can take a picture of that. That's some of our tour averages. Well, I'm going to make it simple. There's two things that we have a whole data analytics department here that we study the data, trying to find correlations, causations, all that kind of stuff. And the two highest correlations to ball speed and club head speed when you look at ground reaction forces are two things. Number one is the combined total torque. That's number one. And number two is vertical. You want to hit a ball farther, create more torque, and create more vertical. Those are the two. Now, to create more torque, you need lateral, you need all these things, so it's kind of fun. But those are the two things that create the most. Do you guys want any more information on this, or is that good enough? Yeah, do you want more? Okay, I'll give you one more thing on force plates, and then we'll move on. Let me grab a club, Dave, or a shaft. Yeah. So I've been saying torques. Let me kind of, because I think this is really important for you guys to understand this. Who's the best basketball player of all time? Testing you right now. Of course, Michael Jordan. What number is Jordan? 23. Just want to see if there's any Lakers fans here and say something different. Okay, so 23 is how I remember the kinetic sequence. Lateral, most of our tour players, they push 23% of their body weight. That's how I remember this, Michael Jordan, 23%. Now in basketball, you make a basket, it's 2 points. In this game, you lose 2 points. So average lateral is 23. Average rock and roll torque is 21% of their body weight. Just subtract 2. Average twist is 19%, right? So like I said, most players rock more than they twist. Pretty close, right? So if you want to know our tour averages and percent of body weight, it's 23, 21, 19. Vertical, it's 2x. They push about 198% of their body weight, two times their body weight, right? Now, if I said, hey, this predictor of club head speed is total torque, take those two numbers, that 21 and 19, if I can make those higher, I can make you hit the ball farther, right? So how do you increase torque, right? What's the formula for torque? Anybody know that? Okay, so watch this. Let's say there's the center of gravity of this shaft right there. That's where I can balance it, right? If you apply a force right through the center of mass or center of gravity, the shaft just goes straight up in the air and it doesn't twist, okay? If I take the same force and I move it off the center of mass, and now I apply the same force, what's the shaft going to do? It's going to twist. That creates a torque. So we know there's two things that are required to create a torque. A force, and it can't be through the center. Okay? How do I calculate the torque? Well, it's really simple. We just take the amount of force and multiply it times the distance from the center. This distance is called the moment arm, right? So if I push with 10 pounds of force 1 foot away from the center, what's the torque? It's 10 times 1, which is 10 foot-pounds of torque. That's how we calculate torque. Now, if I want to make the torque higher, I'm going to ask you again, what are the two ways I can make torque higher? Push harder. So if I want to make 20 foot-pounds of torque, I either need to get stronger in the gym, push with 20 pounds, or just move over here. I mean, on a door, you're not going to push towards the hinges. You're going to push towards the doorknob, right? You're going to get farther away from the hinges. Or if there's a stuck nut, you're going to get a big wrench because it's going to create more torque. Does that make sense? So How do you improve the amount of force a player applies? Most of that comes in the gym. Okay, that's my world. I'm going to try and get them stronger. How do I get you to push farther away from the center of rotation? That's your world. That's coaching. Did you know that? By the way, that's the easy button. I mean, hell, you know how long it takes me to go from 10 to 20 pounds of torque in the gym? You could probably do one lesson and move the moment arm out here. So think about this. If I'm going to create, let's call it rock and roll. I'm going to create rock and roll torque. Okay. When I push into the ground, so I'm pushing this way to go this way, this ground reaction force comes back here. It misses the center of my body. This is the moment arm right here. Misses, and it creates this little torque, right? So if you can push more this way, it's going to be more torque versus if you push this way. That's why if you say, hey, I want to go left early with the driver. I want to get over here. And now you push. This is why stack and tilt's great for short clubs, but all of a sudden the moment arm's gone and now we can't hit it as far. Whereas if you look like a John Rahm or something, they'll be over here creating more torque or long drive. Does that make sense? Right? So positioning your center mass in relationship to where you're pushing can make dramatic improvements on force and torques. Does that make sense? So how would I make sure that my results in force is more over here and not over here? So the more I push from my left foot, it's going to push this way. The more I push from my right foot, it's going to push this way. So what do most players do? Is they push with the right and they lift this off the ground. And if they're doing this, it's basically the force is over here. So long drive, the left foot's almost off the ground and they're pushing because now they got this massive moment arm and it helps create a ton of torque. Whereas you're like, I'm going to try and stay centered and swing. It might be nice for contact. It's going to be low for torque. Yep.
Talk a little bit about when with the heel, if the lead heel goes back or forward.
Okay, he said when you lift the lead heel, I think you're asking what's the best way to lift the lead heel. I think that's what you're asking. Like, does it go back this way or does it go forward this way? Like you'll see guys do this you're talking about or this. Is that what you're asking? Yep. So that's a great question. We answer that with physical, but let me see how I can do that without physical. First of all, you don't have to lift your left leg to create all your force. I can just lighten it, right? A lot of players, that's why they do a little squat. They lighten it, and as they're pushing over here, but a lot of players do this as well. I think a lot of players that do this, they want to feel tension. They want to feel this lock, but I think a lot of people don't have the mobility to do that. I don't think you have to do this. I think a lot of people think, I see Justin James do this. I see some long drives do this. Or I think I need to do this for power. You can actually push just as hard from over here. Just so you know, based on, like, we've messed with this with the players. But I would encourage you not to do that with most players. But if someone feels really loose and they're like, hey, I want to feel some tension earlier, that is a strategy to create some tension. Okay, so now you're, we're gonna come back to that when we get to early extension. Remind me, when we get to early extension, we're gonna talk about this, okay? Because just don't even forget when we come back. I think it's better appropriate at that part because we need to get to something first, and then we'll come back to that. Any other questions on that? Yeah.
That also relates to center of mass is.
Say it one more time.
The amount of force that you're able to apply
Yep.
would never relate to where your center of mass is. In other words, your back, you're not going to fit as much force forward.
It's a really interesting question. He said, is there a correlation between the amount of force you can produce and where your center mass is? Right. Now, I'll tell you one of my pet peeves is I see a lot of people look at, again, they just don't understand data, but they're looking at the ground reaction forces and they see that forces precede motion. They know the tour players do it early. So they're like, you got to get on your left leg early. You got to get over here early so that you can apply force. I just want you to know, most players, if I'm like this, I can push really hard from my left. If I go over here, it's harder to push from my left. Most players will push less if they get left early, but you can push from your left early with not being left. Charlie Hoffman always say, he was like, imagine you're like next to a swimming pool right here. He's like, I want to push the water over here. He goes, if I step in the pool, it's kind of hard to push the water. It's a weird way to think of it, but I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. So to answer your question, I do think center mass matters, where I think there is an optimal place where you can actually create, but it's not necessarily out in front. There's also this thing of in the backswing, right? Remember I talked about this. If I push from the center, right, and there's no torque, When I push from my right leg, I want you to go forward. I want a weight shift, right? So I really want my center mass to the left of my pressure, right? So when I push, not only is it going to make me go right, it's going to make me go forward. So I really don't want my center mass getting outside over here. I want it to stay in front of this, so when I push, I can create more force. Yeah, all great questions. And then let's say one last thing on the force, and then I promise we'll come back to this when we get some of the characteristics, is we use force plates now for our shoe fitted. And I'm just going to give you the 2-second version of this. Is most people don't realize this. When you put somebody on a force plate without shoes, they can usually produce more force than with shoes. Why is that? Did you know that? What are the shoe companies trying to do? They're trying to make it comfortable when you walk. We're trying to create shock absorption when you walk. What's the last thing in the world you want for force production? Shock absorption, right? The ideal thing would be a shoe that somehow is comfortable when you walk, but then when you twist, there's no cushion over there. So believe it or not, like we'll have players in there and we'll like, okay, let's look at you barefoot. And then we'll try 2 or 3 shoes and we're like, okay, that shoe you lose 10%, that shoe you lose 5%, that one you lose 1%. Go with that one. Very rarely, and sometimes we just saw this last week, we have some shoes that we can actually increase over there. But just understand, a lot of times we're just trying to figure out which ones absorb the least, that you can still be comfort when you walk around. Okay. Now, some of the latest stuff, this is sensor edge. We have a driver, 6-iron, and a wedge in our lab now. We can actually measure in the grip. Now, I think a lot of people for a long time have been having debates on this online and trying to theorize. Well, now we're at the point now where we can measure this stuff, which is getting pretty exciting. Here's Jamie Mulligan brought Patrick Cantley in a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, and that's getting us some. Notice what you can see here as Patrick is doing it. And by the way, it's not Bluetooth yet, but it's coming. We can see from here, right? We can see, we take Patrick and we say, squeeze as hard as you can with your right, squeeze as hard as you can with your left, and then swing. That first number over here is percent of maximum at any point in the swing. Then it shows, if I look at the grip, it shows how much are you pushing from the back of the shaft, front of the shaft. Next number is the top of the shaft versus the bottom of the shaft. Then it shows the vector, the ground, let's call it the hand reaction force on there. And then it's percent right versus left. Some cool stuff coming out now, right? Now that we're looking at, because think about this. What if your ground reaction forces, let's say your vertical was 200 and mine was 200. Right now we have to go, well, I guess we're the same. Well, of course you can screw it up by the time it gets to the club. We can now see how much actually gets here to see where we're losing. The way we do it now in our lab is we do the ground reaction forces, tells me how you start your power. We put the 3D on and we measure how you transfer with the kinematic sequence to the club. And now we're actually starting to get information on how you're applying it to the club itself, which is pretty exciting. I'd say this is going to be the next 3 years of a lot of research with our players here. Okay, so that's still, just so you know, that's what and that's how. We still haven't talked about why somebody does this. And again, I don't really like to answer questions on anybody until I know the why, too. So let's talk real quick about the whys. I would say, Dave, let's talk about the basics first.
Yeah, I think you've been talking for a while.
I have, sorry. Here, tell you.
Forgot you were there. Sorry. Obviously, like opening up a can of worms, but you can see how deep you can go. I mean, normally when we do something like this, one of our level 3 classes is 3 days. So to encapsulate everything that's in his head would take months. But, you know, you've still got to come back to the most important thing of all, the why. Just the basic things that you think about as to what can happen and why it's happening. So you've looked at the what, the how you're using ground force, how important ground force is. And when we look at amateur golfers, they've got a lot of things going on. There's the physical side of it. There's just things like fundamentals that can affect their ground force. So fundamentals are still the basics of golf. Don't ever gloss over good setup, good posture, where their balance is, where their weight is. Because to me, the word fundamental is a Latin word, comes from fundamentum, which is called foundation. It's the foundation of the golf swing. A lot of times we want to go to this sexy stuff because it's so cool. But if you don't build good ground foundation, you're not going to have any of this or the ability to produce it. The other thing you see with amateur golfers as to why their forces and all of this stuff is so late is they don't have any control of the club face. So they're constantly trying to get the club face on the golf ball. And as a result, the reason they may be doing this and they can't push with the ground is if the club face is in the wrong position and you push, it's going to make it go in a whole nother position and you're not going to find the golf ball. So a lot of our amateur golfers don't have basic control of what the club is doing when it's coming into the golf ball. Elite level players do. They've got good foundation, good fundamentals. So things just like this, grip, stance, alignment, ball position, posture, tempo, club face, these are the things that you can't gloss over because they tie into all of this world. So when you're looking at kinetics and kinematics and you're looking at the physical screen, you've got to look at the combination, but it's got to start with this. Because if it doesn't, you could be going down these tracks and it could be as simple as, well, let's just get you aligned better. That's what you guys are so great at doing. We are great as golf professionals of teaching around the limitations, of trying different things. The unfortunate thing is a lot of times we try different things, and Allison knows that's not the best way to learn. Because now I got to build this into some kind of practice program, and I just hit them with 30 different things to try and find the one thing that's going to make them better. The beauty of having technology and going down this track of being able to understand how all of this integrates, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. When I can put the pieces together, I know that when a player comes in here and they leave, it doesn't matter how much technology we use, they're going to leave with one thing. You're going to do this and it's going to make you better. And when you go play, I'm going to give you one point of intention, one thing for your brain to do to allow you to still play golf. Because we're really good at teaching in environments like this, where everybody's got a basket full of golf balls and it doesn't really matter where they hit it. But the minute they get to the first tee and there's water on the left and trouble on the right, what do they usually do? They go right back to that default. And the reason is because we haven't figured it out. We don't figure out what it is that's going to make them better out there. We're really good at making sure that they can hit it better in front of us today. But to be really good at what we do, we need to be better at taking this information, making it simple enough that we can come to that one point of intention that they can go and play better golf, right? So fundamentals to me, it's a huge thing. And I think in many terms, it's kind of got lost. We talk about it, it becomes kind of, you talk about routine, like routines become just that, routines. Like people might know I like coffee, right? Coffee to me is a ritual. I make it a certain way every day. It's a ritual that gets me started on my day. So I'd encourage you to watch routine. It's a very common word that's used, and routine can become just that. You just do it every day. How many times have you driven to work and the phone rings and you're talking to somebody? You don't know how you got to work. You show up 20 minutes later, you're there, but you didn't know that you went through this light or you turned left, you turned right. It became a routine. Sometimes you need to go back and figure out how you're going to build it properly and that it actually works, right?
I'd also like to point out that if you go to a tour event and you watch any of the coaches out there on tour, this is probably 95%, maybe even more of what you do, right? Is just work on fundamentals. Like, you know, take all the stuff we just talked about, ground reaction forces, 3D. Dude, if you're aligned 20 yards right of your target, I'm not sure it's going to matter. You're going to come over the top, right? So, like, that's a why. Some of the fundamentals is a why, right?
We're all wowed at the great athlete and coaching great athletes, and it's great. It's great to have someone that makes it to the elite level. But they've already got the fundamentals. They've already got a lot of this. It's actually quite easy to coach the elite. They're so good at what they do. You're just kind of managing them and managing the ship. It's much more impressive to take an amateur that's 30 handicapper and turn him into a 10. That's impressive. So what you guys do every day is a lot more impressive than what I do every day.
What's about OCC?
Yeah, so this is my kind of philosophy. This actually came out of a management principle from IBM out of Wales, England. Nobody even know where Wales is. They have their own language, by the way. But this is something I call obvious, complex, or chaotic. So obvious, you see it right away. Student, you bring them out for a lesson. They're in front of you. You watch a few things. You might take a little bit of video. You might look at their golf swing. You might use arm form to take a look, draw some lines, whatever it is you want to use. And it's pretty obvious. Hey, you're aiming over here. Let's get you aligned better. Let's put you in the right position. Let's move the ball. Let's get you where you should be. It's obvious. The next one, complex, we need more information. I don't quite know what's going on. I'm looking at the golf swing. It doesn't seem right. It looks pretty good. Ball position, the fundamentals look pretty sound, but they can't find it. I need to dig a little deeper. So I might go in and I might look at kinetics. I might look at kinematics. If I have 3D, if I have force and pressure, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper. I might look at their physical screen. I might need help. I might need somebody, another golf pro that, hey, I've been looking at this same guy for so long. Use your friends. I do. I've got 5 or 6 other golf pros that I call all the time with my players. And I go, I've been looking at this. Am I missing someone? Bring in a consultant. Have it take a look. You might need a fitness professional, a medical professional to take a deeper dive into what they're doing. That's more complex. Chaotic, that's when your player's out of control. That's when it might be an elite player or a player that has just lost it. This could be mental, but you as a golf professional need to take control. You've got to get hold of that player, develop the plan, get in their face and go. One of the biggest mistakes when I was younger, when I was teaching elite level players, was I was so enthralled with being around them and being out there, I was scared to tell them what I actually thought, and I got fired by somebody. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I was like, I knew I should have told them what I thought, and I didn't, and they left and went to somebody else. So whenever there's a problem and it's chaotic, you need to take control. You need to step in front of them, no matter who it is, where it is, when it is. You need to sit them down. You can present data to them, but you need to get in their face and take control. And if you do that, you can coach anybody.
Okay, so I would say number 1 why would be fundamentals, right? Number 2 why, I might switch it. I might say this is number 1, but from my world. But the second why that we see a lot is, well, you want to know why they're swaying? You want to know why they're early setting? Well, because they can't physically do anything else, right? I think for a long time, you've seen the lesson where you take a video of your player, you put it up on the screen, you split the screen, you put Tiger Woods next to it, right? And you take Tiger to the top of the backswing, you take them to the top of the backswing, you say, look how good this is, and look, you suck, right? When you put a player next to your player, what is your player thinking? They're thinking that's what you want them to do. Right? Or else why would you put it up there? How many of your players can physically do what Adam Scott can do? How many can do what Tiger Woods can do? Hell, Tiger Woods can't do what Tiger Woods used to be able to do. Right? 27 surgeries later, I'm sorry, you can't do it, right? So it's always comical to me when I see, there's Adam is probably the most flexible person I've ever seen on the planet. You got Adam over here, and you got a student, you got this 65-year-old country club guy that can barely rotate, and you're giving a lesson where Adam, and I'm like, this is a train wreck about to happen, right? So I feel like the physical is that player ready? Let's see. What's this guy? This is as high as he can raise his arms. That's it. By the way, does he look unhealthy? Looks like he's in shape, young, good. You would never, ever suspect that, right? And you see him swing like this. And you're like, dude, you got to get your arms up. You got this flat shoulder plane. He's like, I am getting my arms up. Right? So at TPI, we have 15 screens that we do. We're going to try and have you guys experience a couple of them here in a second. We have 15 tests we do. I would say of the 15 tests, 12 of them look at some aspect of mobility, right? Though just so we're on the same page, there are certain joints. Let me see if I've got this here. No, there are certain, hold on. Can't remember if yeah, I do. Okay. There are certain joints in your body that are designed to move in 3 planes of motion. Your wrist, everybody knows that should move, right? Your shoulder, that should move, right? Your hip, that should move. Your ankle should move. Believe it or not, your mid-back can move in all directions. If a joint moves freely in all 3 planes, we call it a mobile joint. That simple? Now, there are other joints, like your knee. Okay, your knee, it can move in 3 planes. I just really don't want you to move it really far this way. It was designed to flex and extend. Like the knuckle on your finger, better example. It was designed to do this. You can move it side to side and twist it. I just really don't want you to do that, because that'd be called dislocation, right? So there are certain joints that were designed to just move in one direction, and there are certain joints that are designed to move in 3 directions. The really weird thing here is if you look at the skeleton on the right, the ankle is mobile, the hip is mobile, your mid-back's mobile, your shoulder's mobile, the wrist is mobile. Your knee is stable, your lower back's stable, your shoulder blade's stable, your elbow's stable. Notice the body works in an alternating pattern. Stable, mobile, perfect. Stable, mobile, stable, mobile, stable, mobile, stable, mobile. We always say if that pattern's broken, something bad's probably going to happen, So we are always trying in our physical screen to go, all right, do your mobile joints work, right? Of our TPI screens, we have 12 that actually look at mobility. And then of the 15, 6 of them look at stability. I know that doesn't equal 15 because some of them look at both, right? But we basically, our screen is 2/3 biased towards mobility. Because what really happens is this. Think about what your brain's going to do. When you take a backswing, the ankle starts to rotate, the hip should rotate, the spine should rotate, the shoulders should flex, and the wrist should move. That's how you were designed. Well, what if your hip doesn't rotate? What if your spine doesn't? Well, here's what happens. You go to turn and the hip doesn't move. And the brain goes, body, what are you doing? And the hip's like, sorry, boss, I'm trying to move, but it doesn't work. And it's like, come on, we really need to. And it's like, I can't. So it goes, all right, screw you. Trunk, go ahead and turn. And all the trunk goes, as far as I can go. The brain's like, guys, you're killing me. What's going on? How can you remember? It's like, I don't know. The hip's not working. This isn't working. So what's my options now? Like, I can do that, what you see every day. I could say, I know the knee's supposed to stay stable, but right now I need a little, I could try that. And your back can still flex. I can do that. I can just do that. And you take a video and then you put Adam Scott next to him. Right? Now we have, if you guys haven't seen this at TPI now, AI is obviously taking over the world. We have some really cool stuff coming out in the next year, AI-wise. But right now we have an app where you can actually physically screen your player. You put it in. We have millions of screens from all over the world. I'm telling you, it's scary. You can put a physical screen in and never watch them swing, and the AI will say this. It'll say, hey, there's a 93% chance they're going to really extend. There's a 72% chance they're going to slide. There's a 59% chance they're going to chicken wing. It doesn't mean that there's a 93% chance they're going to really extend. What it really means is this. If your player's early extending, there's a 93% chance their body's the reason. Right? Which is pretty cool to know. As a coach, I'm always like, when I see a problem, a technical problem, I'm always trying to decide, is this a technical problem they need a lesson? Or is this a physical ability they can't do it? Right? Because those are two different whys, right, on how to attack. I think that's really, really, really important. If we test, we'll come to that in a second. We'll test your power. If your power is low, right, and you're like, I really need to hit the ball farther, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go test. I'm going to say, obviously, your engine's not big enough. You can get all the lessons you want. It doesn't matter. You can only produce the force you can produce. We're going to go try and dissect and figure out, test your strength, test your speed, test your basic foundation to make sure you have those things. If we test your power and your power feels good and your engine's great, and we're like, man, you got tons of power. I don't understand why you're not hitting it farther. Well, now we're going to go look at your launch data. We're going to look at some of the what's, the hows, the kinematic, and your technique to see maybe even your equipment, something's going on here, right? Does that make sense? Right? Now, on the power, right, here's Patrick Rogers doing a sit-up and throw. Like I said, 3 tests: vertical jump, sit-up and throw, and chest pass, right? When we're on the medicine ball ones, we're measuring how far the ball goes in the air to where it lands. We use a 4-kilogram ball for men and a 2-kilogram ball for women. That way, there's no weight classes in golf, so the small guys got to compete against the big guys. We use 4-kilogram and 2-kilogram. These are our current PGA and LPGA numbers, right? So right now, average PGA Tour player can vertical jump 23 inches, LPGA 18 inches. The sit-up and throw, believe it or not, they can sit up and throw 22 feet, and they can chest pass 22 feet. The first one's in inches, the next ones are in feet. The interesting one about the LPGA, they're all 18. Whether it's inches or feet, it's all 18 across the board is our average, right? So what I want you to know is, like, let's say I took a player and we had these results right here, okay? With the AI and the technology we have right now, I want to show you what we can do. Let's say their vertical jump was 24 inches, their sit-up and throw was 20 feet, and their chest pass was 16. Where's their most powerful part of their body? Vertical jump is really legs. Sit-up and throw is more of a crunch. It's your core. The chest pass is more your upper body. This player is a lower body power engine. Upper body is the weakest. Everybody see that? Okay. What we do is we take the 3 numbers, get rid of the inches and the feet. I know this is weird math. We take the 24, the 20, the 16, we add them together, divide by 3, and we get the average. Their average power number is 20. Their maximum number is 24. We take their highest number and the average. Forget about the inches and feet. It's weird math, but this is what we do. And then we have this. Woo, I don't know why that blacked out there. But there is basically numbers at the bottom, and there's ball speeds over here. We take the average number, 20, and we can look up and it says 166. We take the maximum number 24, it says 184. I promise you, this player should have a ball speed between 166 and 184. Okay, with those power numbers. If they come in and they say, I can't compete with my guys anymore. My foursome's out driving me. I only have 157 mile an hour ball speed. And you do these power tests, what are you going to tell them? I'm going to go, dude, your engine's big enough. You have a technique problem, an equipment problem, or there's something like you don't know what you're doing. Your engine's bigger. You should be between 166 and 184. If the same person walks in and says, listen, I really want to go for a long drive. I'm pretty fast right now. Like I'm like 185 right now, but I think I could get to 200 when we do the power test. And I look at this and I go, I'm not sure. You might be at the end of your... Now, here's the thing. I could probably get you to 200, and I've tried. They just break. They get hurt. Right? I'm always like, your engine's not big enough to support that speed. Is that pretty cool? Right? We actually do the same thing with ladies, right? So we have a scale that we can just, data's just awesome, right? When you get enough data, you can start making I honestly at the point now where I feel like I can predict your ball speed, your potential ball speed within 2 miles an hour. Like if you're a tour player, it's pretty accurate. If you're an amateur, you might not have no idea what you're doing, so you're not there yet, but within 2 miles an hour, just look at your power test, right? And think about it, if I had somebody who was like 12-inch vertical, let's say 20 sit up and throw and a 30-foot chest pass, right? Would it surprise you if they were like this? I'm like, well, they're using their engine. They're using their upper body. And if you're like, hey, you got to stop doing this. You got to use your legs. Well, now they're going to suck. They don't have lower body. Don't tell them to use something they don't have, right? Which I think was really important on that, right? Our app kind of does this. It kind of says, okay, your engine's 12, 15, 16. It'll kind of go through and give you that stuff, which is, I think, really cool. Like this is an example right here. If you see that kind of swing, Dave has been working with her for about 12 years.
That's it, baby.
And she strikes it. But if that's her power numbers, it would make a lot of sense, right? Here's her from the front. Dave sent me this video too, so I have no idea where I found it. Anyway, but that would make a lot of sense. And then the last why, right? And then maybe we'll have some fun here. The last why we would say is equipment. I always say this is the easy button. You know, a lot of times the reason all of your stuff sucks is because you got the wrong club in your hands, right? Or you got the wrong loft, you got the wrong lie. Nothing's more frustrating then you're working with somebody with this miss to the right for 6 months, and then you realize it was too flat, or like just the stupid stuff like that. Don't be one of those people. That's nothing more frustrating than that, right? Make sure you get the fitting right. Okay, like we had Crystal Lamprick here a couple months ago. I mean, he's 6'8", right? He's 6'8". You get him, you go, hey, I wonder why he dips down a lot. You know how hard it is to fit somebody who's 6'8"? I'm sure he's struggled for a long time trying to find the right clubs. Equipment can make all kinds of weird stuff. Okay, Dave, I'm going to pass it to you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can talk about concept. There is one more why, and that's concept too, by the way.
Yeah, so basically our principles are, what shows the results, how helps you feel it, and why explains the cores, and we build a plan. That's what we do every day we come in here. So what we thought now is we'd have a little bit of fun with you guys, right? We're going to take two of the biggest swing characteristics.
We might take one, Dave.
You might take one? I don't have enough time. Which one? Okay, let's take this one. Let's start with this one. So obviously, to me, two of the biggest swing characteristics are early extension and over the top. Early extension tends to be a better player fault. Some of you may deal with it yourself anytime the pelvis moves closer to the golf ball.
How many of you are struggling with this with your students?
Some of you do. Some of you struggling with it. Okay, so maybe we'll give you a little bit of insight. Let's just quickly review it. Most people know what it is. I mean, here's Scotty Scheffler. No early extension. The pelvis is an ellipse. So if my pelvis rotates, my right butt cheek should go behind the line I've drawn on his butt. At no time, if he shifts properly and moves into his lead side, should I ever see daylight between him and that line. So as his right butt cheek comes off that line, if you watch his belt buckle, it works back underneath him. He's pushing against the ground, and you'll notice with Scotty how much his feet jump backwards. That's kind of what Greg's talking about. His legs drive his arms. So when he pushes, this is part of the reason why he jumps backwards and why he gets those arms back down in front of him. But you can see there's no early extension. He's way behind that red line. That's what you should all strive for. I see a lot of people talk to me and they go, hey, I put a line on their butt and they're on the line. That's not good enough. The pelvis is an elliptical shape. If I draw a line on my tailbone, I should rotate. My right butt cheek should go behind that line. In transition, it should stay behind that line. Reason why we test your pelvic tilt is as I push against the ground, I got to have pelvic tilt. If you can't, and your pelvic tilt is tight, you're going to come out of your posture through impact. That's part of the early extension. Yes?
Talking with Dr. Drake a few weeks ago, camera angle is huge, is it?
Absolutely.
Get that camera line up again.
You do. So anytime, I would assume you guys know this, but anytime camera angle, whenever you're using just basic video, it's very important. Now, some of you have different ways to do it. Just do it the same every time. Don't do it all. At least then you're going to know what your norms are. For me, I always like the camera at hip height, right on the hands. I take my iPhone, put the grid on the iPhone. There's that grid feature. Make sure the handle of the club or their hands are right in the middle of the middle grid. If you do that every time, you're pretty good. Ideally, at 240 frames per second, you would want a tripod. We're not all good at keeping our hands still. So let's take a look at these two. Two more. Here's Abraham Ansa and Colin Morikawa. Again, totally different bodies, totally different stature. One's a little bit more flexed in the legs. One's a little bit more tilted over. But if I draw a line on their tailbone and run this video, watch what happens. Abe turns behind the line, stays behind the line. So you could start to look at pushing and forces and stuff. But look at him. He's way behind the line. Some of these players that have more side bend, the Joaquin Niemans, it's a lot to do with how they push that creates that. If we look at Colin Morikawa and we take him back, again, behind the line, behind the line, behind the line. This is an easy one to look at. We should all know this by now. And if you don't, and your members don't do it, you should be doing this once a month. You should educate your members on what they're seeing on social media, because then they'll never leave you. If you don't educate them or have an education session at your club, once a month, pick one of the characteristics, teach them. Because if not, they're just going to go to YouTube or one of the social media sites and learn it from them, and now you're not the expert. So you make sure you bring it to them. Here's two more. Now these two, as we said, these are swing characteristics. You can have these and still struggle. This is Jimmy Walker, has struggled with early extension a lot, to the point where a year ago, he was in a 42.5-inch driver just to try and get it back in front of him. He now uses an auto flex shaft because for early extenders, that shaft loads and it kicks and it actually gets the face to square up for him. So that's a good shaft to test for early extenders. And then you got Sebastian Nunez again. Pelvis goes in underneath him, hits a power cut, is an incredible player. So just as I said before, these are characteristics. They're not necessarily faults if they don't affect your ability to perform, but it might affect one of their shot patterns, or it could cause injury. Because anytime the pelvis drives in, it could create excessive side bend, and now I'm looking at the injury potential with these players. And here's your common amateur golfer. So these are the ones that we're more likely to see. So you have the gentleman on the left, he early extends on the backswing. Now his arms are stuck or trapped behind him. He has to stand up and really stop the body from rotating just to try and create space to get the arms back out in front of him. He manages to strike the golf ball, but look how much he's come off that line. So right away, here's early extension. Here's another form of it. There are tons of forms of early extension. There's players that early extend on the backswing and recover on the downswing. Early are great on the backswing, but early extend on the downswing. So all of these are factors that we have to look at. One of my favorite videos, you can find this on YouTube. This is from the AMG guys. This is on their gear system. If I look at the line on the bottom, that's the line on my tailbone from down the line. Look at the right butt cheek go behind. Watch the lateral move, as Greg talks about. We have this move, this lateral shift. Watch them move into their lead side while they stay relatively closed. So look what happens here. Watch the movement of their right butt cheek. It stays on the line as they shift into their lead foot. Now, once they're on their lead foot, they push the ground away. That right butt cheek will eventually come off the line, but watch the left butt cheek take it up. So as they push, they're behind the line. As the right butt cheek comes up to the line, the left butt cheek's already behind it. That's a great video to educate people at home on hey, what is early extension? How does it occur? This is what you're not doing in your golf swing. So that's early extension. Let's actually talk a little bit about the physical factors, and maybe we'll try a few things.
Yeah. So let's do
40 minutes.
Yeah, let's do two things. So I'm gonna come back to yours. Okay, you asked about the left foot. let's talk about the why early extension happens. Because I think once you understand the why, we'll understand some of the fixes. Okay. All right, wouldn't it be awesome if I could go play golf and I want to hit the ball farther, if I brought two big dudes with me, right? And I have one big dude pushes my right hip forward, and the other big dude pushes my left hip backwards on my downswing. Would that help increase my speed? Yes. Obviously, I can't bring two big dudes on me. That's against the rules, right? But here's the good news is I don't need two big dudes. I've got ground reaction forces, right? I'd want a ground reaction force to push my right hip forward and one to push my left hip backwards. Right with me? How do I get a ground reaction force to push my right hip forward? What do I have to do with my right foot? I got to push backwards, right? So if we look at what direction they're pushing, as they push, the right foot pushes back this way. So they're pushing that way, which makes them go this way. So when they push back this way, the ground reaction force comes back and it helps me go lateral and takes my right hip forward, which by the way is early extension. Okay, so the right leg is pushing back and making this go forward. The good news is it's not just the right leg. The left leg is also working too, right? How do I get the big dude or the ground reaction force to push my left hip backwards? I got to push my left foot forward, right? So my left foot's pushing that way to make the ground reaction force come back this way. Does everybody understand that? So, like if you're on ice and you slip, you're going to slip this way. Your right foot's going to go backwards, your left foot's going to go forward. You're going to do splits because now you're trying to create these opposite ground reaction forces. Now, here's the cool thing. I told you that all these forces matter, but we didn't talk about this direction here, right? If I'm looking at this direction here and even the vertical over here, typically this is 2 times the amount of this. So if I'm pushing with 70 pounds this way, I'm usually pushing with 140 pounds this way. So this starts it, because this is earlier. It starts lateral and they start to go forward. And then when this kicks in, this completely wins and makes them go backwards. So if you're going forward, what's not winning? Right side's winning, left side's losing. Does everybody understand that? Almost universal on the force plate. Right side's winning, left side's losing. If I said to you in general, what's your right leg? Is it a gas pedal or a brake pedal? What? What's your left leg? Okay, there are no brake pedals. I want to make this really, really clear, right? This is a gas pedal and this is 2 times the gas pedal. I think a lot of amateurs think what you just thought. Gas pedal, brake, right? This is gas. This is gas for lateral back, and this is gas for rotation. Everybody with me on this? If you don't do this properly, you'll probably always early extend, right? So now back to your question. You're like, hey, this is a big misconception. I see people talk about this all the time. They're like, hey, I want to get up here and then I want to drive the heel down. Wait a minute, where am I supposed to push with this left foot? Where am I supposed to push? Forward, right? What part of my foot pushes forward? That's the ball of the foot, right? Like if you push from the heel, I'm going to go that way, right? So if I get up here and I go, I'm going to drive this down and I'm going to push. Welcome to early extension, right? Just so you know, when these players, when they do this, like when Justin James does this, as he pushes the ground, the force is what drives them back. By the time the heel hits, forces are gone. It came from the ball of the foot, right? Most people, I was trying to tell you, most people can push backwards better this way than this way, right? It's usually more powerful this way, okay? So to me, it's always about re-educating how to use the lead foot to make sure it's double the right foot and make sure you're pushing in the right direction. Everybody with me on that? Can I show you one of my favorite drills to do that? Why don't we try this with the front row? Sorry, back row, you can try, but I think you'll kill yourself. Everybody stand up in front row. It's about 20 push-ups, 20 sit-ups. No, just kidding. Okay, so we're going to give yourself a little bit of space. All we're going to do is this. We're just going to do this. A little easy, okay? So let's do this. We're not setting any records right here. Please, nobody tear any meniscus or anything. We're just going to do a little jump. I want to see you just do a little vertical jump. Yeah, let me watch my jumps. Let me see. Okay, so notice, watch what you guys did. As you squat, what did your arms do? Arms went down. As you jump, your arms went up, right? Okay, everybody feel that? Okay, that's not golf. Golf is the complete opposite. As we squat, our arms go up, and as we jump, our arms go down. So what I like to see is you do a golf jump. Usually that's like chewing gum and patting your head at the same time. That's pretty good. I'm impressed. Is that easy?
Notice how most of you landed backwards.
Okay, now take a little step forward. Okay, we're going to take this one. So this is how I teach my amateurs this, right? We're going to do that one time. So watch me first. I'm going to do this little jump. Do that one time. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, all right, I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to jump twice as hard from my left foot than my right leg, right? So I'm just going to go here, and it should, because my left foot is harder, it should win a little bit here. Let me see, try that. Yeah, you notice you should kind of maybe rotate a little bit. Now, if you want, you can take your hands together, and you can just squat, and then jump, and welcome to Scotty Scheffler. What we'll usually do is we'll put like a stick on the ground, and when I'm doing this, we'll just make sure you're always jumping backwards this way. And they're like, yeah, no, I don't do that. I go this way. I'm like, no, I know you do that. All right, good. Thanks, guys. You can sit down. All right. As dumb as that sounds, that's like a major light bulb for a lot of your players to stop. If you actually push from your left foot, it's impossible to release that. You can't go forward and jump backwards. It's impossible. And by the way, we tell them to do that, and then we say, okay, now swing, but just don't jump. Just the same feel. They get the same feeling. You don't have to jump, obviously. You can have the same feeling without doing that, right? Now let's talk physical. So what would be physically required to be able to not early extend? Based on the conversation we just had. If my left foot's going to win, if I do this, what's required? I need some hip mobility in my left hip, right? I think that would be pretty damn important, right? Anybody know you got hip mobility problems? Sorry to do this. Let's just, everybody, I think everybody can do this. Everybody stand up for me for a second. I think there's enough space. Maybe not. I don't know. You're going to go like this. All your weight's on your left leg and your right foot's just like this. So your right foot's just there for balance. Hands on your hips. Okay. We call this the lower quarter rotation test, right? Really, really simple. I'll turn this in the same direction as you guys. All we do is toes pointing forward, all my weight's on my left leg. This can swivel. I'm just not putting weight on it. It's just there for balance. And I'm just going to turn my hips as far as I can to the left. And Dave and I are going to take a look, see what we're dealing with. Rotate as far as you can.
I want over here. Over here.
So far as you can go? All right, do me a favor. Young lady, can I see you? And young man, can I see you? Yep. Yeah, you're a young man. Come on. What's it? Come on over here, guys. Thanks for volunteering. Just kidding. Come on over here. Let's go. One here, one here. You guys tell me. Okay, good. And don't take a little step over. I'll come right in front of you so we're on. Okay, here we go. Weights on your left leg. Okay, from here, we're going to rotate as far as you can this way. Who's going to have more success? Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. That was impressive, by the way, right there, right? And that was impressive too, right? Just want you to know, like, that is very, very common, right? Again, if he only has this much motion, right? What's his choice? What's his options right now? Well, if I can't rotate this way, I could do that. Okay, that's a good option. I can do this. I could go this way. By the way, do you release that? I'm pretty sure you do too. Yeah, he's like, yeah, a little bit, yeah, good. So he's probably gonna go this way, right? Now, how could we fix this? Want to talk about coaching around a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you got two total differences here on how you'd go about fixing this, right? So, one, this is what we're good at, is coaching around physical limitations. So anytime I've got an issue where I can't rotate into this leg, well, I could change positions of the feet. I could always just fan the feet out, give him some more rotation, right? That would be the easy one is, well, let's just fan your foot open.
What is your stance right now? Can we see your stance? What's your stance right now when you're playing?
Yeah, so he's got issues with the ankle as well.
Yeah, so you kind of fan it out now too. And don't be scared to go as much as you want. Yeah. You even step more up.
You got to even step more.
He's already figured it out.
He's already figured it out. He's got a limitation. He's already starting to figure it out, put his foot in the right position. So this is what we do as golf pros. We figure out what is the least point of resistance. But is that what we should be doing? And that is the big one, because depending on the level of player, we could be causing more injury around what's going on. And that's why we like to dive deeper. I don't want to lose anybody from this game. You don't want to lose members of this game. Every member is about $3 to $5 grand a year to the bottom line. You lose 30 a year, that's a lot to your bottom line, right? So just make sure that you're understanding that teaching around is one thing. They're going to hit it better today, but if they don't show up for the next 6 months to a year because they're hurt and injured, that's going to hurt us even more. So let's just make sure we're understanding.
Okay, so just remember, like, it doesn't mean like he has to go spend 20 years in the gym to make improvement. If you want 10 degrees more rotation, just turn his foot out 10 more degrees. Sorry. Right? Just so you can feel this, I apologize, but I want you to be able to do this with your members. I know this is Captain Obvious. Stand up one more time. Here's what I show my member, right? Because they don't know. They don't know any of this stuff. They're not a doctor. They take their left foot and put their left foot pointing straight forward. Put all your weight on your left leg, right? And I say, with all your weight on your left leg, go ahead and turn again like we just did. Turn into your downswing, right? Now I say, come back. And I go, now let's do this. Turn your left foot in. Okay, now turn into your downswing. How'd that work? They're going to go, that sucks. And I go, hey, turn your left foot out. And I say, now turn. And they're like, oh my God, it's freedom, right? Again, just show them. I know that's Captain Obvious, but just show them. Okay, thanks. You can sit down. I just want you to feel that. So, of course, what I would say is, hey, there's lots of things we can do to try and help the joint and help the tissue and get loose, and we can give you those exercises. But at the same time, I want to give you a lesson. I want to coach around it. So we do both. People are always like, should I coach around it or should I train it? I'm like, why are we picking? Let's do both, right? We'll coach around it while we're working on it. Now, yeah.
Question, with the foot turned out, and then you push off the toes, you're pushing it a different direction, are you not?
So, great question. He's like, hey, if I turn this out, will it change my ground reaction force? It sure as heck can, right? Not only can it change the direction of your ground reaction forces, it can also change their alignment. A lot of times people look at their toes on where they're aligning. When the left foot goes out, now they think they're aiming left, so they end up showing up aiming way right. So, turning it out does have consequences over there, but normally what there is when they have restrictions in the hip, you'll find a position where they're like, man, I can push the hardest. And we go with that, right? Great question. Now that's Captain, I think that's Captain Obvious for early extension. If you don't have this, let's do a non-Captain Obvious one, right? Everybody sit tall. Just take your arm like this. Okay, from here, see what we're dealing with here. Rotate that back as far as you can. Where's my work? That's tight. Let's see. All right. Both of you guys, come on up. Yep. No, you can sit in the middle. Just you and you. Yep, come on up. Nope, you can sit. Yep, perfect. Come on over here. So let's go. One of you facing that way. One of you here facing this way. Do me a favor. Facing which way? Just facing this way. We're going to go 5-iron posture. Take your right arm out just like this. Right arm is. And go ahead and rotate as far as you can. And do me a favor. Turn this way so these guys can see it, and then turn that way so they can see it. Yep. And then turn so those guys can see it over there.
Let's stand
Thanks, guys.
a little bit.
Those two different animals? Okay, thanks, guys. All right, so let's talk about this for a second. Dave, what's yours look like? Let's see what this. It's perfect. Okay, so have you ever watched Tiger Woods top of the backswing? Again, right forearm's vertical, helps support the club. And I've seen so many lessons where they're like, hey, look, your arm's like this. Look at Tiger's like this. You need it. It drives me crazy because this is what happens in this lesson is the amateur, you show the video and Tiger Woods is like this right here. And then they're like this, right? And they're like, oh my God, I never seen that. That's crazy. Like, wow, you're right. It's over there. So they're going to say, oh man, yeah, you're right. I can feel that. All right, hold on. Let me see if I can fix that. Is that better? And you're like, but you stood up that time. I'm like, oh, wait, my bad. Is that, oh wait, hold on a second. Hold on. Oh, I stood up again. Hold on, sorry. You want to kill yourself after like 3 minutes because this just goes back and forth. Because basically what you've done is you've told them to do something they can't physically do. Right? It happens every day, but that's what we see every day. I always like to say, and then Dave, you talk about this, there's 3 basic planing mechanisms to get the club on plane, right? There's this one. This is a great one. Wrist range of motion is a great planing mechanism. I can almost make this steep, shallow, on plane. I can do anything I want just with the wrist. Everybody agree? Wrist is a great planing mechanism, right? Shoulder is a great planing mechanism. Shoulder is a great planing mechanism, right? If I don't have shoulder, and God forbid, if you don't have wrists, what's another one? There's another great one, right? A lot of people early extend because they don't have this motion, and they know they're steep, and they're like, I got to fix this, and there it comes through. And you're like, hey, I took this seminar from the TPI boys, and they said you shouldn't early extend, and you fix early extension, and the next thing you see, they're like this. Please don't take away a planing mechanism if you don't give them a new one, right? That 99, I mean, how often do we see that?
See it a lot. So it's so important to understand these little tiny things of moving the golf club and how you can move them. It's very easy to test wrist mobility, right? It's very easy to do this. It takes seconds. I think a lot of us, and this is especially when I first started, you're scared to do a physical screen because you don't think it's in the world that you live in. That's The TPI physical screen was built for you. It was built for me by him so that I could do it. And I do it while the student's warming up. I'm watching them hit a few balls. You notice a little early extension. Hey, Mr. Jones, come over here for a second. Can you just do this for me? And I have them do 2 or 3 tests. Then I watch them hit a few more balls, try a couple more things. By the time they've hit 5 or 6 balls, we've pretty much done the entire screen. But I've got so much more information as a coach. I now know, and this is what's so important, by understanding how they physically move, I'm never going to tell them to do something they can't do. So right away, I can give them a lesson. I'm just like, well, I'm not going to tell them to do that because they have no chance. We're going to go down this track today because they can actually do that, right? And this is why understanding the flow. It's not about fixing the movement screen. That comes to a much bigger picture. Now, if it's an elite level player, if it's a young junior that's trying to get to the next level, I'm going to look at how they're producing power. Is it efficient? A lot of people are training kids today for power, and we're seeing them get hurt because their bodies can't handle swinging the speeds that they're swinging. You've got to still assess their movement pattern, right? Very, very important.
Let's do over the top.
So let's do one more. Let's do over the top, and then we'll have plenty of time for some questions. So over the top, obviously, probably the biggest one that we deal with every day. Early extension tends to be more of a better player fault, better player characteristic. You know, they may be using their legs too much, so their power source could be their legs. Over the top, it's usually their power source could be their upper body. That's what they're using. They've lost their leg strength. That could be because of injury, could be because it doesn't move correctly. But let's just look at over the top. So pretty obvious. I think everybody does this their own little way. I draw a shaft plane line. It's just a reference line. Take them back where their upper arm's parallel to the ground. Again, camera angles matter big time. I draw a line on this. It creates what we call a slot. You know, Jim McLean called it the cone. Everybody's got a different verbiage. We want that club to drop somewhere in the slot. So that's the shallowing mechanism. We want the club to shallow early. We don't want it to keep shallowing under that line. We want it to get back on that line, get back out in front. At impact, I draw another line. That's my impact plane line. I take it back a few frames and through a few frames, and I'm looking at from hip height to hip height, what is that club doing? Is it tracing the impact plane line? Yeah. That guy's going to be able to hit it. Brooks Koepka can hit it pretty much any way he wants. He can manipulate that impact plane line a little bit to curve it, different shapes, but that's pretty much what we look for. In John Rahm's world, a little bit different technique. Obviously, we all know the bowed wrists. He's got some physical considerations you got to look at with his foot, his ankle, the length of his legs. Most people don't realize John's got an 11.5 extra wide on his right foot, a 13 wide on his left foot. His slot's not going to be as big because he bows his wrist so much. So some people have a big slot, some people have a smaller slot. John's got a smaller slot. Nonetheless, it shallows on the slot. Now, in this particular case, he's hitting a draw over the canyon at Torrey Pines to the par 3 on the other golf course because he's been standing around and he's just trying to hit it over the canyon. And you'll notice the impact plane line, he's got more tilt to his spine, so you're going to have the shaft raise a little bit more. He also pushes, which raises it. But his impact plane, he's going to be a little bit under it, a little bit above it because he's trying to hit a draw, right? But that's how we look at this slot pattern. Now, our average amateur golfer, again, it could be because club face issues. That is one reason you could come over the top. But there are a lot of people that have perfect club face and come over the top. This player, there's his slot. We look at him from the top. As he starts down, he is over the top of the slot. So he is over the top of his slot. If I take him down or take the other student, this video is going to run, take him down to his impact plane line. He actually returns it to the plane line because he's steep and coming across it. And you look at it right there. There's his impact plane line. He's way above it, way below it. Could it be face position? He might just need a lesson. He might just not know what he's doing. But it could also be physical, which we're going to get to in a minute. And then we go over and look at the other student on this other side. Again, setup position doesn't look too bad. Maybe a little bit on his heels, maybe a little rounded in his upper back, but not bad. I draw the shaft plane line as he takes the club back, gets to the point where the upper arm from the elbow to the shoulder is parallel to the ground. We draw a secondary line. There's my slot. He is over the top of the slot, right? So that's just your basic over-the-top patterns. Here's a couple of players swinging the golf club over the top. Again, looks like the upper body's going a little bit first. There's a twister who keeps twisting. That's pretty good over the top, right? Okay.
Okay, so let's real quick, ground reaction forces. What do you think their sequence is? Do they rock before they twist? In general, they twist before they rock, right? So if you think about it, like in general, most of these people are twisting before they're rocking, or there's not much rock at all. So one of the first things we would do from a ground reaction standpoint is try and get some rock before twist if you're trying to change this. Well, just also remember this is one of the best ways to create rock is weight shift. Okay, as you laterally weight shift, that actually helps you create rock, right? So on these over-the-top ones, we're always thinking, hey, if I can get the lower body to start moving first, especially lateral, a lot of times it'll induce rocking before twisting and can make a big difference. So that's in ground reaction force. Let's talk about physical real quick. Let's do an easy one, right? Where you just take your hand out in front of you, take your right hand out in front of you. If you're right-handed, if you're left-handed, take your left hand out in front of you, right? From here, we can check, can you flex your wrists and can you extend your wrists? Let's see extend. We got anybody who's like, man, my wrist's screwed up? We see what we got here. I can usually spot you from a mile. Make sure you make a fist because you're holding onto a golf club, right? Let me see how far you can extend. You're all golf pros. They're all pretty good. Let me see. Anybody got that one? Usually you can tell me about the surgery you had. Let me see. Oh, yeah. Get your ass up here. Come on. Let's go. Let's take a look.
He's been trying to come here for years.
Nice. Go this way. Just take both hands. Come stand right here facing that way. And turn that way so they can see your right hand. And go ahead and extend. And both hands. Extend both hands at the same time. I mean, look at what happened.
Shattered.
Usually, like I said, he's like shattered it multiple times. Usually they'll tell you about the trauma over there. He's like, I got fusion there. Okay, thank you. Just want everybody to see that, right? Something you might not think about is wrist extension. Remember I said there are 3 planing mechanisms, right? You don't want to use this one, right? You would love to be able to shallow this way and this way. Well, if he's like this, is it going to be harder? Yeah, life's going to get harder, right? How do you shallow, by the way? He's like, I don't. That's good. What's that? What's the way? Right. Do you struggle with this? Yeah. He said, I pulled the right foot back. I've tried, and again, you're going to hear the story, but did you know, I mean, you might, because you shattered it, but did you realize your wrist could be the whole reason for this? You do now. So you didn't even know that. Okay. So that's a big one, right? Obviously, the one I showed you before could also affect over the top, but those are important. That's still not the number one correlation we see physical. Anybody know what the number one physical correlation over top is? What is it? She just said, I can't start my swing with my lower body. Right? Is that what you just said? I can't start my swing with my lower body. In other words, we call this disassociation. You should be able to rotate your lower body independent of your upper body, right? If I get up here and I say, hey, the best players in the world, like Dave showed you, start with their lower body, but these are connected. It's really difficult to not become steep. So this is something we test on everybody, and we're going to test on you right now. This will be the last test, I promise. Everybody stand up. We always finish with the funniest one because it's just funny to watch you guys do this. Okay, so we're gonna go down in 5-iron posture. Why do we pick 5-iron, by the way? Well, it's halfway between a wedge and a driver. We're just taking the average. Okay, we go 5-iron here, and we're gonna cross your arms. Now, I always say, imagine you're in a barrel. The barrel's electrified. You touch the barrels, you get electrified, right? I want you to rotate in the barrel, but don't move your shoulders. We're looking for shoulders that are moving. Rotate your lower body back and forth, but don't move your shoulders. Keep going. I'm looking. Rotate the lower body. Don't move your upper body. Rotate your lower body. Don't move your upper body. Okay. Casey, I saw it. You're trying to hide, but I saw it. Casey, Gene, come up here. Come on. Casey's like, please don't pick me. Please don't pick me. I can see the work. Come up here. Come on, big guys. Thanks for volunteering. Just kidding. Okay, right there. And Gene, come on this side. Okay, here we go. I'll stand slightly in front from here. Let's go 5-iron posture, arms crossed. You know what? I asked everybody before we started. They all asked if they could see our butts. Are you okay with that? Let's turn this way. Let's go this way. Here we go. We're going to Okay, 5-iron posture. Okay, now we're not going to touch the barrel. We're just going to rotate. Keep going. Now, question. Both of you guys, look at me. Look at me. Who do you think they're laughing at? do you think you beat Gene, or do you think Gene beat you? Like, how did you think? Do you think you did good?
I feel like I'm doing.
How do you think she did? Let's do face everybody again. Okay, go ahead and do it. Let's have her do it first. Okay. Do you see upper body moving? Do it one more time. Don't move your upper body. I just want you to know how picky I am. I see her upper body moving. I would fail that. I could make that better, but it's not bad, right? She can kind of do it. So it's just maybe the upper body moves. But my question is, do you think she has a mobility problem, or do you think it's hard for her to stabilize? Because this could be a mobility problem or a stability problem. The way we figure this out, because I think I know what yours is, but go ahead and set up like you're going to hit. Do you mind if I hold your shoulders?
No.
Okay, sure. All right. That's arms crossed. So I saw your upper body moving just a little bit, so I'm going to stabilize. Now just rotate your lower body. If she's like, go ahead and get back and forth. Is it easier when I'm holding?
Yeah.
She's like, wow, that's way easier. What she just told me is, I don't have a mobility problem. It's a little hard to stabilize. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Then there's you. I think they were laughing at you, Gene, but they were laughing with you, not at you. So we're going to go, was it hard?
Hey, all I know is I can hit a 250 and straight.
He said, all I know is I can hit a 250 and straight. Love it. Okay, so was it hard?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so we're going to go down 5-iron posture. Okay, I want you to go ahead and try and rotate your lower body. Don't move your upper body. What's he kind of doing? I call it wagging the tail, right? You kind of, to make sure we're on the same page. I almost feel like you're going like this. And I want to see rotation. So I want to see if you can rotate. It's still hard for him. Everybody agree? So I'm like, so I still don't know if that's a mobility problem or a stability problem. So all I do is I come in and I say, go ahead and set up like you're going to hit. Do you mind if I hold your shoulders? I'm going to hold his shoulders. And I say, go ahead and do it now. I still think it's hard. You agree?
Yeah.
Right? That help you? He's like, no, it didn't really help anything. Totally different, right? It looked to me like Casey was a stability and looked to me like you were mobility, which I think it is, right? I look at this and I'm like, oh, okay, it's kind of hard for him to start the lower body first, right? If I saw him on 3D looking at a sequence and I saw this and this kind of go together, it wouldn't surprise me. Thank you. Thank you so much. But you can still hit it 250 doing both of that.
I see.
Okay, so I think hopefully we gave you, 4 physical screens there to kind of highlight some of these. Just in your brain, what we were hoping you would take away from this is I'd say 2 things from this talk. Number 1, take your technology, put it in buckets. What, how, and why, right? Don't try and answer the why with a video. Don't try and answer the what with a physical screen. Okay, so they're in different buckets. I think that's really, really important. Number 2 is please don't assume your players can do what Adam Scott can do or what any of the tour players can do. We're humans. We all have our physical restrictions. There isn't one way to swing a golf club. There's a million ways to swing a golf club. Having a physical restriction isn't a death sentence. We'll just coach around it or we can work on it, but it just makes you a better coach. You're not going to tell somebody to do something they can't physically do. It literally takes 4 to 5 minutes to get some information. Just like as long as it takes you to do a video, you can do a little quick physical assessment, and now you at least won't tell them to do something they can't do.
Now, the other thing I would say there, guys, is whenever you look at this world that we're in, we're here for you. Like, that's our job, like, to help you. So if you've got questions about what you see and you need somebody to dive a little deeper, we have more data than anybody on the planet. So this is what we do every day. We get to look at things that a lot of people don't do and then pass it on. So anytime you have questions, if you've got a student that's struggling, if you've got somebody with a wrist injury and you want some advice, use us. That's what we're here for. We're here for you, right? So don't forget that. It's important to Greg and I that you utilize what we've built here because it's pretty incredible.
And we started a little late, so we'll take 5 minutes if you guys have questions. Yeah, anybody got questions on anything? Anything, RTB? Yeah, shoot.
On that if it's key or whatever, what's hiking?
Oh.
Hip hiking? Yeah, so hip hiking is basically you'll get players that and it could be because of how they're pushing, but it's really the hip starts to go vertical early. We call this hip hiking. It's coupled usually with side bending, but that can cause lower back pain.
What I always like to show this too. I show if you guys don't mind, if you want to see this, stand up here and it's better to feel this. Watch how messed up this is. But like Will Zalatoris, herniated his disc doing this, right? Okay, on the backswing, let's sway a little bit. On the backswing, your right hip goes up in the air, right? On average, it's about 10 degrees. On the downswing, your left hip goes up in the air. Anybody feel that? Right? So let's go backswing, right goes up, downswing, left goes up. Now this time, let's do this. On the backswing, make your right go up, and on the downswing, make your right go up even more. Welcome to hiking. That's weird. Now think about this. If your right hip goes up on the downswing, how are you going to get the club down? You have to do this. How does that feel on your back?
Side bend.
Right? That's hiking. Good question. Thanks. What else? Nothing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that you can't do this
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
Probably not going to get better. What's one of the ways?
He said, what if somebody can't do this? Are they screwed? Well, why don't you pick a model like Fred Couples? He got pretty good doing that, right? Like I can show you former number ones in the world that have their arm like this, right? Any caveats there for when they're...
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is you're always trying to create space, so that they can get it. If they have difficulty doing this, I wouldn't want the arms. I'd want the arms out, so I'd want more width in the backswing. Jack was a little bit like this. Jack didn't get it way up in here, but he was a little bit more that way. But he did do a good job of getting that arm back in front of him coming down, right? So just think about what their limitation is and where do I need to put the club so that it makes it easy for them to get back in front.
Yeah. Gosh.
So, as you know, I was giving you some read about life for concealing that information I needed about 45 years ago. As far as early extension, just from School of Hard Knocks, blending this information, which is so fabulous. If you've ever tried to keep your hips against the chair or keep it back
Against a wall, keep your hips straight.
range till I get it right on my camera and stuff. First of all, if your camera angle is wrong, you're going to make a suffocation. But second of all, anybody who's ever felt that knows that it feels awful. It feels terrible. You can't move. You're not athletic. And sure, I can't. My hips are dying, but I guess I'll figure it out someday. Oh, it's good at the way you're saying. You push the round.
Well, what you're describing, Roger, is, and I'll kind of rephrase this question with an answer at the same time, is like a Major League Baseball pitcher, right? We've noticed in Major League Baseball, the faster your lead knee extends, the faster you can throw a ball, right? So a lot of people notice this correlation that a great Major League pitcher, the faster the knee extends, the faster the ball goes. So what does the pitcher do? They try and snap their knee back, right? The great pitchers aren't trying to snap their knee back. The way they push makes the knee go back. You just said, like, hey, a lot of people with early extension, they try and keep their butt against the wall and they're trying to push their butt back. Pushing your pelvis back isn't the answer. Pushing the ground the right way makes your pelvis go back. And that's where the light bulb goes off. One's a result, one's a cause.
I think the other big one there too is a simple test we do called pelvic tilt. And pelvic tilt is huge for this because if you're pushing against the ground and you don't have good pelvic tilt, you'll stand up. And that sucks as well. So you can push as hard as you want against the ground, but what great players do is they have long legs and a short torso at impact because their pelvis goes through this range of motion that keeps them in posture. If you don't have that range of motion in your posture and you push against the ground, you're going to have long legs and a long torso at impact, and that's going to suck.
Or even worse, short legs and upper torso.
Exactly. So that's the other one. What early extenders, they have short legs, which balance-wise, this goes back and you have a long torso. So you look at good players, they look like this. They look like this. They have long legs. They've used the ground force, but they're still in posture. And you need pelvic tilt to be able to do that.
Good.
You showed a video of you throwing the net ball next to the long drive guy.
Yeah.
Which was awesome, by the way.
You're welcome.
Any other exercise tools like that might put my kinematic sequence?
Oh, great question. So he's asked, I showed a medicine ball, the shovel pass, showed Justin James doing a shovel pass to try and get early ground reaction forces. He's like, what's a good exercise to get kinematic sequence? Now we're going to 3D, right? So people send me their kinematic sequence all the time and they say, hey, can you give me an exercise to improve this? How do I answer that question? All you showed me is what they're doing. I don't know why. I wish it was that easy and that you can just do this in kinematic sequence, but there's a million ways to make your kinematic sequence wrong. And depending on how you ruin your kinematic sequence is how we do this. So it's the same thing on video, by the way. You send me your video and say, what's the best drill? I want you to know without the how and the why, I'm guessing. And it could be physical, it could be technique, it could be ground for it. I have no idea. All of them can create the same characteristic. All of them can create the same kinematic sequence. Sorry to leave you like that, but that's the real answer. There isn't one that applies to everybody.
But if you're looking for drills and exercises, if you go to the mytpi.com website, there's a file there that says drills and exercises. There's a search engine in there. If you want like the shuttle pass, the Justin James power drills, they're all in there.
But what I would recommend for kinematic sequence, like in general, kinematic sequence is not a measurement of how talented you are in golf. It's a measurement of how athletic you are. So anything that makes them more athletic should help their kinematic sequence. Throwing balls, kicking balls, doing things, athletes transfer energy properly.
Time for maybe
People
one.
make golf unathletic. I don't. Got one more?
Anybody else?
Well, thanks everybody for spending 2 hours with us, and thanks for coming to our home. Appreciate it.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks everybody. If you have questions, I'll be in the lab too. You can come ask me questions.
Thanks a lot, guys.
You got it.
Really, really great stuff there. Wealth of knowledge. Great way to kick off Spring Teaching and Coaching Summit. We want to take this time just to introduce some of our other talent. We've got in Station 1, Carly Schneider. Carly played her collegiate golf at Loyola in Chicago. She's teaching down at the Cove Club in Cabo San Lucas. She's primarily a short game expert, teaching from the green back and the ground up, focusing on fundamental techniques and making the hard things simple. This is Carly. She's going to be over there at number 1. And then our station number 2 is going to be a tour with Steve Wilson of this wonderful facility, followed by a presentation from Nate Hairgrove and Gear Fisher from Onform, and then Scott Skorolski from Club Champion. Okay.
And then starting at Station 3, which is going to be over here in the white tents, we will be doing the club fitting station. There will be a couple of Titleist fitters, Lucas Bro, Joey Saywitz, Hunter Brown, Travis Johnson, and Louis Renard. So enjoy yourself with them. If you're going to be at Group 3 or Station 3, that's where you'll be starting. And at Station 4, we'll be putting, which is just around the building over here in the backside. And putting will be led with the one and only Warren Botke. Warren is a 43-year PGA professional and PGA master professional. He's the director of coaching at Lost Lake Golf Club in Hobe Sound, Florida. He's recognized with a numerous amount of awards, including the South Florida PGA Teacher of the Year, Golf Professional of the Year, PGA of American Horton Smith Award winner, Golf Digest top teacher in the state from 2001 to 2013 and 2015. He's taught over 70,000 golf lessons. And if you need like a visual for that, picture going to the SoFi Stadium. That holds a little over 70,000. So just picture, I got this visual this morning. Picture every seat being filled, and all of those are your students at one point in your career. That's what Warren has done so far. In addition to just giving regular lessons, he's also been a coach for over 25 tour professionals from all 4 majors, and he's had winning champions in each of them. One notable one is the PGA and the U.S. Open champion, Brooke Koepka. So if you're starting in Station 4, please enjoy yourself with Warren. Sure to be fantastic.
So we'll do 2 rotations, and then we'll stop for lunch around 12:30. There's going to be a wonderful taco truck and burgers out there, and then we'll finish up our other 2 rotations. We're going to break for some pauhanas. We have White Claw and Dogleg here, as well as maybe some poo-poos and a putting contest afterwards as well. So lots of fun, a lot more education coming on today. Let's give Greg and Dave another round of applause, and enjoy your short little break.